Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they don't know how to win their day. You wake up, already behind, notifications buzzing, emails stacked. Your to-do list mocks you while your energy's running on fumes. You promise yourself, tomorrow will be different, but it never is because you haven't changed. Now imagine this. Somewhere in Texas, a woman wakes up just as overwhelmed. Kids yelling, calendar packed, anxiety rising. But instead of spiraling, she pauses and activates one simple 5-minute ritual. Everything shifts. Her mind clears. Her energy resets. She gets laser-focused, not by working harder, but by working smarter. This audiobook isn't about hustle. It's about clarity. It teaches you how to reclaim your day. Even when life is messy, you'll learn to silence distractions, build unstoppable momentum, and create days you actually feel proud of. Because productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most, even when you're exhausted. Feeling behind? Don't scroll past. This is your reset button. Chapter 1. Breaking the Grip of Procrastination. Why your brain clings to comfort and how to outsmart it. Your brain is a master at keeping you safe, and not just from danger, but from anything it perceives as uncomfortable, risky, or new. That's why you find yourself checking your phone instead of working on that important task. Or suddenly feeling hungry right when you sit down to focus. Or even choosing to clean your entire room just to avoid sending that one email. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of ambition. It's your brain doing what it was built to do: seek comfort and avoid stress. But here's the catch. The comfort your brain craves is often the very thing holding you back from progress. Let me paint the picture. Imagine standing at the edge of a pool. You know it's cold. You know the shock of that first plunge will make you gasp. So you hesitate. You dip one toe. Maybe you walk away and tell yourself, I'll do it later. That's how your brain treats any task that feels the slightest bit uncomfortable, whether it's starting a new habit, tackling a tough conversation, or doing focused work. The unknown feels like that cold water. So your brain does what it's always done. It whispers, let's stay dry. Let's stay safe. Let's stay here. But here's the truth. Comfort rarely leads to growth. And the people who seem incredibly productive, they're not superhuman. They've just learned how to outsmart that voice. One simple way to do that? Shrink the discomfort. If writing a whole page feels overwhelming, tell your brain, we're just writing one sentence. Suddenly, the cold water doesn't feel so icy. That one sentence often becomes a paragraph. That paragraph turns into a page. And before you know it, you've crossed a line your comfort zone never wanted you to see. Think about this. Have you ever dreaded a task for days, only to feel amazing once it was done? That's your brain finally quieting down, no longer afraid. You proved it wrong. And every time you do that, even in small ways, you teach your brain that discomfort isn't danger. It's just unfamiliar, and you can handle unfamiliar. The goal isn't to kill the craving for comfort. It's to lead it. Gently, consistently. You train your brain by building trust with yourself, by showing up, even for 2 minutes. That's how momentum starts. That's how you break free from the warm trap of inaction and step into a life where you move, grow, create, and feel alive. So the next time you feel resistance, smile. That's your brain trying to keep you safe. But now you know better. You know that behind that resistance is the exact life you're trying to build. Take one tiny step anyway, and watch the whole world shift. Stay with me, because next we'll dig into how you can create routines that work with your brain, not against it. Even on the days when you feel completely drained, you won't want to miss it. The 5-minute rule that melts resistance instantly. Let's be honest, starting is the hardest part. You know that thing you've been putting off? Maybe it's opening your laptop to work on that idea. Or dragging yourself off the couch to get in a quick workout. Or even just replying to that one email that's been haunting your mind for days. You want to do it. You know it matters. But every time you think about beginning, it feels like your entire body whispers, "Not now, maybe later." That's resistance. And it's sneaky. It disguises itself as tiredness, perfectionism, distractions, or even fake logic. "I'll have more energy tonight. It's not the right time. I need to think it through more." Sound familiar? But here's where everything changes. There's a tiny trick that elite performers, creatives, and even recovering procrastinators use every day to shatter that invisible wall. It's called the 5-minute rule. And it's stupidly simple. Commit to doing the task for just 5 minutes. No pressure to finish. Just start. You see, your brain doesn't hate work. It hates the idea of work. It looks at a 2-hour task and immediately hits the brakes. Too big, too overwhelming. But when you tell yourself, "I'm only doing this for 5 minutes," something magical happens. Your brain goes, "Oh, that's manageable," and the resistance drops its guard. Here's the wild part. Most of the time, those 5 minutes turn into 10, then 20, and before you know it, you're in the zone. You tricked your brain into stepping over the threshold, and that's all you ever needed. Think about it. Have you ever told yourself, "I'll just do a quick stretch," and ended up finishing a full workout? Or opened your notes just to skim a project and ended up writing half of it? That's not a fluke, that's momentum. Because here's the truth most people don't realize. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. If you're waiting to feel ready, you'll be waiting forever. But once you start, once you move, you create a spark, a shift, a rhythm. The 5-minute rule is your shortcut to that shift. Even on the hardest days, especially on the hard days, it works. Don't want a journal? Set a timer and write 1 sentence. Can't face your inbox? Open it and scan for just 1 name. Feeling low and unfocused? Breathe, start, move, just for 5 minutes. And here's what's really beautiful. The more you use this rule, the more you rebuild your trust with yourself. You prove that you don't need to feel perfect or be in the right mood to take action. You just need 5 minutes of courage. That's it. So next time resistance shows up, and it will, don't fight it head on. That rarely works. Instead, shrink the mountain. Tell yourself, 5 minutes, that's all. Then begin. Because behind those 5 minutes is the life you've been trying to build. And now that you've cracked the code to starting, let's talk about how to protect your energy and attention, especially in a world screaming for it every second. What I'll share next will change the way you think about focus forever. Stay with me. Turning small wins into a snowball of motivation. You know that feeling when you finally check off something from your to-do list? Even if it's something tiny, like making your bed, drinking a glass of water, or replying to one overdue message, it gives you a quick jolt of satisfaction. A little inner fist pump. And what's fascinating is, that small win, it does more than just make you feel good. It starts something. It's like lighting a match in a dark room. Suddenly, your brain wakes up and whispers, "Hey, maybe we can do more." The secret most people miss about motivation is this. It doesn't come in one big magical wave. It builds, quietly, through a series of tiny, almost invisible wins. And when you learn how to turn those small wins into momentum, you stop relying on motivation to show up. You create it yourself. This is how the most productive people in the world stay on fire. Not because they're superheroes or because they wake up bursting with energy every day, but because they've learned how to build a snowball. Think of it like this. You're standing at the top of a snowy hill. In your hand is a small snowball. That snowball is one tiny win, a completed task, a healthy choice, a 5-minute action. Now, if you just drop it and walk away, nothing happens. But if you roll it forward, just a little, it picks up more snow. It grows. It gets heavier. It gains speed. And before long, it becomes a force. That's what small wins do when you stack them. Let's say you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, behind on everything. You tell yourself, forget the whole list. I'll just drink water and open my planner. That's it. You do it. And now, instead of spiraling, your brain catches a tiny rhythm. That rhythm becomes another action. Maybe you answer one email. Maybe you write one paragraph. Each win stacks on the one before it, until suddenly you're moving. Your brain loves winning. Every time you complete something, no matter how small, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of reward and motivation. And here's the trick. Dopamine doesn't just make you feel good. It makes you want to keep going. But here's where most people miss out. They wait to celebrate until they've accomplished something massive. I'll be proud when I finish the book. I'll feel like I'm making progress when I've lost 10 pounds. I'll feel productive when I clean the entire house. That mindset kills momentum. Because big wins take time, and when you don't feel the progress, you lose the drive. But if you flip the script, if you celebrate the tiny victories, you train your brain to stay engaged. You teach yourself that progress is happening now, not someday. And that's powerful. Start small, make the bed, send the text, walk 5 minutes, write 2 sentences, then pause and acknowledge it. Tell yourself that counts. Because it does. It's not about the size of the win. It's about the direction you're moving in. Soon, your small actions stack, your belief in yourself builds, and your motivation, it snowballs. And when that snowball starts rolling downhill, picking up speed and force and confidence, it becomes nearly impossible to stop. You become someone who doesn't just start, but someone who keeps going. That's the quiet power of small wins. They don't scream, they don't show off, but they build empires. Now imagine what your day could look like if you stacked just 3 wins before noon. What if the next 24 hours weren't about finishing everything, but simply moving the ball forward, one intentional step at a time? That's where real momentum lives. And the best part? It's all in your hands, starting right now. Let's keep that snowball rolling, because up next, we're diving into energizing routines for low-energy days. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Chapter 2. Energizing routines for low-energy days. Morning routines that don't require a smile. Not every morning feels like a fresh start. Some mornings hit you like a wave you weren't ready for. Your body wakes up, but your spirit drags behind. Maybe you're carrying the weight of yesterday's stress, or maybe you're just tired for no reason you can explain. And you know what? That's okay. This idea that every morning has to be sunshine and gratitude journaling, or wake up smiling like you're in a toothpaste commercial, is a lie we've been sold way too often. Because sometimes you don't feel like smiling. You don't feel like jumping out of bed and crushing your goals. And yet, those mornings still matter. In fact, especially those mornings matter. Because that's when you need a different kind of morning routine, one that meets you exactly where you are. Not the perfect version of you, the real you, the tired you, the anxious you, the quietly overwhelmed you. That version of you still deserves care, still deserves a soft place to land. And that's where a no smile needed routine comes in. This kind of routine doesn't require energy. It doesn't ask for motivation. It doesn't need you to fake being okay. It simply helps you begin. Gently, honestly, quietly. Maybe it starts with silence, just sitting at the edge of your bed, breathing, not even trying to meditate, just existing without judgment, no performance, no pressure, just you, inhaling and exhaling. Maybe it's wrapping yourself in your favorite hoodie or blanket and sitting by a window, letting the morning light hit your face without forcing anything to feel magical. Maybe it's sipping warm water, or coffee or tea, not because it's productive, but because it's comforting. Maybe it's writing a single sentence in a notebook. Today I'm here. That's it. No toxic positivity, just presence, just honesty. These small acts, they may seem like nothing, but they are everything. Because what they do is remind your nervous system, you're safe. You're allowed to move slowly. You're not broken for feeling low. And that tiny spark of self-kindness, it grows. Even if it doesn't fix everything, it gives you enough softness to take the next step. You see, the truth about morning routines isn't that they need to be loud or exciting or perfectly optimized. It's that they need to belong to you. They need to hold space for your humanity. They need to work, even on the days when joy feels out of reach. And some of the strongest people I know aren't the ones who leap out of bed ready to conquer the world. They're the ones who show up quietly, who keep going through the fog, who keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when they don't feel like smiling. That kind of resilience, it's raw, it's real, and it's worth honoring. So if today is one of those heavy mornings, breathe, don't force it, don't chase the sun. Just start small, move gently. And remember, you don't have to feel amazing to build a meaningful life. You just have to begin, exactly as you are. And when you're ready, there's something beautiful waiting on the other side. Because next, we're going to explore energy-saving planning habits for chaotic schedules. Stick around. You're going to love what's coming. Energy-saving planning habits for chaotic schedules. Life doesn't always give you a clean slate to plan your day. Sometimes you wake up and the chaos has already begun. Maybe your phone is buzzing with missed calls. Maybe your kid is sick. Or the meeting that was supposed to be at 2 just got moved to 9. Or maybe your brain is just loud, spinning with 50 tabs open and no idea where to click first. And in the middle of that whirlwind, someone says, just plan your day. Really? With what time? With what energy? The truth is, most people don't talk about planning for real life, the kind that's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright exhausting. But that's where energy-saving planning habits become your lifeline. These aren't rigid productivity hacks. These are flexible, forgiving systems that adapt to your chaos rather than trying to fight it. Here's the thing no one tells you. You don't need to plan your whole day. You just need to plan your next gentle step. That's it. Think of it like holding a flashlight in a dark room. You don't have to see the whole path. You just need to see the next few feet. And one of the most powerful habits? Planning when your brain is quiet. That tiny moment, maybe before bed or while you're waiting for your coffee to brew, is a sacred window. Use it to sketch out your 3 non-negotiables for the next day. Not 20 things. Just 3 things that matter. Not urgent, not overwhelming. Just honest. What would make tomorrow feel successful even if everything else falls apart? Now here's the magic. You're not just writing a to-do list. You're lowering the mental load. You're pre-deciding what deserves your energy, so you don't waste it making decisions on the fly when the day gets chaotic. Another energy-saving trick? Batch your chaos. If you know your schedule's a mess, don't scatter your efforts. Group similar tasks together, like making all your calls in one window or replying to messages during a single time block. It's not about being robotic. It's about protecting your brain from constant switching. That switching is what drains you, not the actual tasks. And let's talk about expectations. You are not a machine. Some days will be slower. Some days you'll need to pivot again and again. That's not failure. That's flexibility. And flexible planning is sustainable planning. Because if your schedule is constantly changing, then your plan needs to move with you, not work against you. One more tip that might surprise you: plan in pencil, literally or mentally. Don't fall in love with your plan. Fall in love with returning to it, even when the day unravels. It's okay to pause, recenter, and say, okay, what now? That reset moment is powerful. It stops the spiral. It saves your energy. Because the goal isn't to control every hour. The goal is to preserve enough of yourself to make it through the day with your sanity and heart intact. So no, you don't need a perfect planner. You don't need color-coded blocks or fancy apps. What you need is permission. Permission to plan in a way that fits your life. Permission to adjust without guilt. Permission to rest without apology. Because planning isn't just about productivity, it's about peace. And once you discover how to plan with peace instead of pressure, everything changes. You start showing up with more clarity, more calm, more you. And speaking of clarity, in just a moment, we're going to dive into a subtle mindset shift that completely transforms how you show up, especially when you feel overwhelmed, distracted, or behind. It's simple, but it's going to change how you look at everything. Stick around. You're going to want to hear this. How to stay consistent when your mind says not today. There's something strangely powerful about those three words, not today. You know the ones. The ones your mind whispers when the alarm goes off and your body feels like lead. When you sit down to do the thing you know you promised yourself. Work out, write, clean, show up, and your brain, casually but firmly, goes, "Nah, not today." It's not loud, it's not aggressive, it's quiet and convincing, and somehow it's incredibly good at making you believe it. And the worst part? It sounds reasonable, because your mind will give you all the reasons. You're tired. You've been so good this week. Just skip today. You'll be better tomorrow. Sound familiar? Here's the truth most people don't say out loud. Staying consistent doesn't mean you feel motivated every day. It means you've made peace with the days you don't. You don't win the consistency game by fighting your mind like it's the enemy. You win by learning how to respond to it with love, not war. Let's get honest. We all have those days when the spark is gone, when the passion's flat, and even the smallest step feels like climbing a mountain. And the temptation is to think, if I don't feel like doing it, then it won't count. It won't be my best. But here's the wild part. It's the messy reps that matter most. Showing up, especially when it's imperfect, that's when the magic happens. That's when consistency starts to sink into your identity, like, yeah, even when I didn't want to, I still showed up. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just building proof. Proof that you're not ruled by your moods. Proof that your commitment can be louder than your doubt, even if it's just a whisper that day. One powerful way to do this is what I call bare minimum consistency. That means asking yourself, what's the absolute smallest step I can take today that still honors my commitment? Not to win, not to impress, but to stay in the game. If you are going to write for 30 minutes, write for 5. If you are going to work out for an hour, just stretch for 10. If you are going to meditate, maybe just sit quietly and breathe for one song. Because the point isn't intensity, it's identity. And the identity you're building says, I'm someone who keeps going, even when it's not glamorous. That's powerful, that's rare, that's growth. Here's something most high performers secretly do. They don't wait for the right feeling, they create the right environment. They design frictionless cues that make showing up so small, so easy, that even their tired brain can't argue with it. And when your brain says, not today, try responding with curiosity instead of shame, like, oh, why not today? Am I truly exhausted or just emotionally foggy? Would it help if I just started and see how I feel after 5 minutes? Because here's the plot twist. Most of the time, it's not that you don't want to do the thing. It's that you don't want to feel a certain way while doing it. The discomfort, the pressure, the vulnerability, that's what your mind is trying to avoid, not the task itself. But once you start, once you crack open the door just a little, momentum has a way of walking in. It's not about feeling ready. It's about becoming someone who shows up anyway. And if you can do that, if you can show up even a little bit, even on your not today days, you'll start building something stronger than motivation. You'll be building self-trust. And self-trust, that's the secret weapon. That's what turns effort into ease. That's what makes you unstoppable, quietly, gently, over time. So next time your mind says, not today, smile gently, then whisper back, just a little bit. Just enough to keep the promise. Because the magic isn't in the huge leaps. It's in the quiet moments you choose to keep going, even when no one's watching. And speaking of quiet moments, what happens when even your smallest efforts feel invisible? When it feels like you're trying but nothing's moving? That's what we're diving into next. And trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Chapter 3. The Overwhelm Antidote. Mindset Before Method. Why doing less can actually create more momentum. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? Do less and somehow create more momentum? We've been wired to think that productivity is all about doing more. More hours, more hustle, more pushing. The louder, the faster, the busier, the better. But what if I told you that doing less, intentionally, is one of the most powerful ways to actually move faster? Crazy, right? But think about it. How many times have you started your day with a giant to-do list fired up and ready to conquer the world, only to end up overwhelmed, drained, and guilty because you barely made a dent? You tell yourself, I'll try harder tomorrow, but tomorrow comes, and the same cycle repeats. The truth is, too much kills momentum. When you're trying to juggle 10 things, your energy gets diluted, your attention scatters, and instead of making progress, you spin in circles, jumping from one task to the next, half-finished, half-present, half-hearted. But when you do less, on purpose, you get to go deeper. You reclaim your focus. You take off the pressure to be everywhere and start showing up fully where it matters most. And here's the kicker. That's what builds real momentum. Not frantic action, not burnout disguised as ambition, but clear, sustainable, purposeful movement. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two people. One tries to sprint through 10 doors at once, slamming into everyone, frustrated and confused. The other calmly opens one door, walks through, and builds something solid on the other side. Who do you think makes more progress? Doing less is not about laziness. It's about leverage. It's about identifying the one thing that, if done well, unlocks everything else. And sometimes, that means having the courage to say no to the noise, to stop chasing everything just because you can. When you simplify your focus, you multiply your results. Ever notice how the first step is always the hardest? But once you take it, even the smallest version, you begin to feel something shift. That's momentum. And you didn't need 10 steps, you just needed one. You don't need to overhaul your life today. You don't need to run a marathon every time you decide to get back on track. You just need to take one meaningful, manageable action and do it consistently. That's how momentum works. It doesn't roar in like a hurricane. It builds like a ripple, small, steady, and impossible to stop once it starts rolling. And here's the beautiful part. When you give yourself permission to do less, your nervous system stops panicking. Your brain stops feeling threatened. You actually begin to enjoy the process. And when you enjoy it, even just a little, you're far more likely to return to it tomorrow. Suddenly, it's not a struggle to be consistent. It's a rhythm, a flow, a quiet but powerful momentum. So if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, like you're constantly falling behind, maybe the answer isn't to do more. Maybe it's to pause, breathe, and ask, what if I only focused on one small thing today? What if I trusted that less could actually lead to more? And here's the twist. Once you experience that shift, once you see how freeing and effective it is, you'll never want to go back to the chaos again. Doing less doesn't mean you're falling behind. It means you're choosing to move forward with intention. And what if I told you that even the tiniest consistent steps could completely change your identity? That's what we're diving into next. Get ready. This next part might just change the way you see yourself forever. Reframing busy into progress. We live in a world that glorifies busy. Ask anyone how they're doing, and you'll probably hear, "Oh, I've been really busy lately." It's almost become a badge of honor, a way to say, "Hey, look, I matter. I'm doing something with my life." But deep down, doesn't it feel a little hollow? Let's be honest. Being busy doesn't always mean you're making progress. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. You're constantly moving, constantly checking boxes, constantly saying yes, but when you finally slow down and take a breath, you realize you've been running on a treadmill. A lot of motion, but no real forward movement. And that realization, it stings. Because you've been trying, you've been showing up, but something about it still leaves you feeling tired and strangely unfulfilled. Here's the thing no one tells you. Busy is often just noise. It's filled calendars, endless notifications, errands, distractions, reactive choices, and doing things simply because they were there, not because they moved you closer to anything meaningful. And when we define our worth by how busy we are, we lose sight of what actually matters. We forget to ask, is this effort turning into something real? Something I care about? That's where the shift happens. That's where busy starts to transform into actual progress. Imagine this for a moment. What if, instead of chasing every little thing that screams for your attention, you paused and asked, is this helping me become who I want to be? Is this task meaningful, or is it just keeping me occupied? When you start framing your days through that lens, everything changes. You go from reacting to intentionally creating. You go from overwhelmed and scattered to focused and aligned. And guess what? Real progress doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It's one deep, focused hour on something that matters. It's saying no to 5 meaningless things so you can say yes to one thing that actually moves the needle. You don't have to do everything. You just have to do the right things. That's what progress is. It's not about being everywhere. It's about going somewhere, on purpose. And you don't need a perfect plan. You don't need a 10-step routine. You just need the awareness to say, hey, I've been busy, but am I being effective? Because here's the powerful truth. When you stop chasing busy and start choosing progress, your entire experience of time changes. You feel lighter, clearer. You finish your day feeling satisfied, not just spent. And isn't that what we all want? To feel like our energy is building something that matters? To feel like we're not just surviving the day, but shaping something meaningful? So the next time you catch yourself saying, I'm just so busy, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, busy doing what? That question alone might be the spark that takes you from scattered activity to focused, forward movement, from noise to clarity, from spinning to actually soaring. And just wait, because next, we're going to break down how small wins, yes, the tiniest ones, can become your biggest secret weapon for building unstoppable momentum. Trust me, you'll never look at your day the same way again. The mental shift that separates burnout from breakthrough. You know that feeling when you're giving everything you've got, day in, day out, and yet it still feels like it's not enough? You're pushing, grinding, showing up, checking the boxes, but something inside of you just feels tired, like bone-deep tired. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. You've got goals, big ones, dreams that once lit you up. But lately, it all feels heavy. The spark is dim. And the thought creeps in, maybe I'm burning out. But what if I told you you're not broken? What if you're actually on the edge of something bigger? What if the pain you're feeling isn't a sign to quit, but a signal to shift? Because there's this tiny, powerful, almost invisible mental shift that separates burnout from breakthrough. And once you understand it, things start to click. You see, burnout often comes when we start measuring ourselves by output only, how much we can produce, how fast we can do it, how perfect we can be. It becomes this endless performance. We hustle, not from excitement, but from fear, of falling behind, of not being enough, of being forgotten. But the path to breakthrough, it starts the moment we stop chasing from a place of pressure and start creating from a place of purpose. It's subtle, but huge. It's the difference between saying, I have to keep going or everything falls apart, and I'm choosing to grow, even if it's slow. It's not about doing more, it's about being more intentional, more aligned. Burnout says, push harder. Breakthrough whispers, pause, realign. Then, move forward, smarter. One of the biggest lies we believe is that the only way to succeed is to suffer, that we have to earn our breakthroughs through exhaustion. But in truth, your biggest breakthroughs often come after the breakdown. When you've hit a wall, and instead of forcing your way through it, you step back and ask, why am I doing this in the first place? That's the mental shift. It's not quitting. It's choosing different energy. It's shifting from proving yourself to knowing yourself, from surviving your goals to enjoying the process of becoming who you're meant to be. And when that happens, when you start building from love instead of lack, the fatigue begins to lift, the fog starts to clear. You realize it wasn't the work that was killing you, it was how you were carrying it. So if you're feeling burned out, don't shame yourself. Don't assume you're weak or lazy or unmotivated. You're not. You're human. You're in the messy middle. And honestly, that's where the magic brews, if you let it. Give yourself space to breathe, permission to pivot, and the grace to believe that your greatest shift could come right after your hardest moment. Because sometimes, all it takes is one quiet decision to stop running on empty and start fueling yourself with truth. And next, I'll show you how tiny, consistent actions taken from this new energy can build momentum like you've never experienced before. Stick with me. The real shift is just getting started. Chapter 4. Willpower-Free Productivity Rituals. Designing rituals that run on autopilot. Ever notice how brushing your teeth doesn't require a pep talk? You don't stand in front of the mirror every morning debating whether you feel like it. You just do it. Almost mindlessly, it's part of your rhythm. That's the power of a ritual that runs on autopilot. It works for you, even when your motivation doesn't. Now imagine if the things that actually move your life forward, the ones you want to do but always struggle to stay consistent with, had that same effortless flow. What if journaling, stretching, planning your day, reading that one chapter, or even just drinking water in the morning, became as automatic as brushing your teeth? That's not just wishful thinking, it's a system you can design. And the best part? It starts small, so small that your brain doesn't even flinch. See, we've been tricked into believing transformation has to be dramatic, that if we want to change our lives, we need to wake up at 5 a.m., run 10 miles, drink green sludge, and meditate for an hour with Tibetan monks. But real change, the kind that lasts, starts with rituals that are so ridiculously doable, they don't give your brain a chance to talk you out of them. Think about the little things you already do every day: putting on your shoes, making coffee, checking your phone. These are all triggers, natural cues your brain already recognizes. What if you linked a new habit to one of them, like journaling for 2 minutes right after coffee, or stretching for 30 seconds the moment your feet hit the floor? You're not trying to move mountains here. You're just planting seeds that grow roots. The trick is to make the ritual easy enough to win, meaningful enough to matter, and consistent enough to stick. And no, it doesn't mean stripping all the joy out of your day and becoming a robot. In fact, it's the opposite. Designing rituals that run on autopilot gives your brain more freedom, not less. It frees up mental energy so you can focus on what truly matters, instead of wasting willpower trying to talk yourself into doing the same things over and over. Here's the beautiful part. Once your rituals become part of your identity, something you just do, without drama, they start to stack momentum. And that momentum builds confidence. That confidence leads to action, and suddenly you're no longer depending on feeling motivated. You've got a system that carries you, even on the days when life feels messy, noisy, or overwhelming. So no more forcing, no more guilt. Just smart, small rituals, designed by you, for you, that play quietly in the background, changing everything. Ready to build the kind of habits that don't ask for your energy? They give it back? Stay with me. I've got something even more powerful coming next. Anchor habits that hold your day together. Ever feel like your day slips through your fingers before you've even had a chance to grip it? Like the moment you wake up, it's already chaos. Notifications buzzing, responsibilities piling, and your brain doing that thing where it jumps from one unfinished task to another like it's auditioning for a circus? Yeah, we've all been there. And if you're constantly asking yourself, where did the time go? You're not broken, you're just unanchored. That's where anchor habits come in. Think of them like emotional and mental handholds in the storm. Solid, predictable, grounding. They're the small but mighty routines that keep the rest of your day from unraveling. Not flashy, not complicated, just reliable. And in a world that constantly pulls you in 100 directions, reliability is a secret weapon. Let's make this real. Imagine starting every morning, not with frantic scrolling or checking emails, but with one simple habit that belongs only to you. Maybe it's drinking a glass of water while standing in silence. Maybe it's writing one sentence in a journal. Maybe it's making your bed with intention. Small, right? But when done consistently, these tiny acts send a powerful message to your brain. I'm in charge here. Anchor habits aren't about productivity hacks or squeezing every drop of energy out of your soul. They're about reclaiming a sense of center, especially on the days when life feels wobbly. And here's the magic. Once you build one anchor, it naturally attracts others. Drink water, right pointing arrow, stretch for 60 seconds. Right pointing arrow, review your top 3 tasks for the day. Suddenly, you've created a sequence that helps your brain shift from autopilot chaos to purposeful momentum. And the beauty is, you don't need to be perfect. Anchor habits are like good friends. They don't disappear just because you missed a day. They're there, waiting patiently, ready to catch you when life knocks you sideways. The trick is choosing habits that feel natural, personal, and grounding. Things that fit your life, not someone else's Instagram version of morning perfection. For some people, it's a prayer. For others, it's opening the windows and letting the light in. The habit itself matters less than what it represents. Ownership. Stability. Direction. Because when you have even one anchor habit, one moment that's yours, on purpose, it becomes easier to stay calm in the noise, focused in the pressure, and grounded when everything feels like it's moving too fast. So here's your invitation. Don't try to overhaul your whole routine. Just find one habit that can become your anchor. Something small, something meaningful, something that reminds you. You're not just reacting to your day, you're creating it. Stick with me, because next we're going to dig even deeper into using environment design to stay on track without force. Using environment design to stay on track without force. You ever walk into a room and suddenly feel like doing something specific? Like grabbing a snack just because the chips are on the counter? Or checking your phone because it's right beside you, glowing? That's not lack of discipline. That's environment design quietly pulling the strings. See, most of us beat ourselves up for not having enough willpower. We try to force focus, shove ourselves into productivity, wrestle with habits like they owe us something. But what if the secret isn't trying harder? It's setting up your space so it works for you, not against you. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a time I kept failing at my goal to read more books. I'd make a whole plan, set reminders, even pick out which book to start with. But somehow, by the end of the day, Netflix won. Again. Then something small shifted. Instead of keeping the book buried on a cluttered shelf, I placed it right next to my pillow. Every night before I reached for my phone, the book stared at me first. I started reading a few pages, then a few chapters. It felt easy, natural, like I wanted to read, even though nothing about my day changed, except the environment. That's the power of design over discipline. Your space shapes your behavior far more than you think. Want to work out more? Leave your workout clothes where you can't ignore them. Want to drink more water? Put a bottle on your desk instead of the fridge. Want to focus? Clear visual clutter. Set your phone across the room. Open only the tabs that serve the task. The smallest changes, ones that take minutes, can quietly guide your brain without pressure or guilt. And the best part? When your environment is designed with your goals in mind, it stops feeling like you're dragging yourself uphill. You're not forcing anything. You're simply responding to the cues around you, and those cues are aligned with who you want to become. It's like having a quiet teammate on your side, one that nudges you toward the better choice without shouting. The truth is, success isn't about heroic moments of motivation. It's about creating spaces where doing the right thing becomes the easiest thing. When your environment whispers, "Hey, you've got this," again and again, you stop needing to fight yourself. You start flowing. So next time you feel stuck or lazy or distracted, pause before blaming yourself. Ask, what does my environment make easy? What does it make hard? Then shift one tiny thing, just one. You'll be surprised how much easier everything becomes. Not because you forced it, but because you designed for it. Stick around, because next we'll dive into focus like a laser, not a floodlight, and how to make sure your space reflects the future you're building. Chapter 5. Focus like a laser, not a floodlight. How to shut out noise, even internal noise. Have you ever sat down to do something important, something you really care about, and suddenly your mind feels like a crowded room full of people shouting at once? The to-do list is yelling. Self-doubt is whispering awful things. Social media is buzzing in the background. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, the quiet voice that actually knows what matters gets drowned out. It's wild, isn't it? You finally have the time, and yet your brain won't give you the space. This is the noise we're all living in. And sometimes, it's not just the outside world. It's the noise inside that's the loudest. Thoughts like, what if this isn't good enough? Or, you're falling behind, or someone else is already doing this better than you. It's exhausting. You want clarity, but all you get is static. So, how do we shut out the noise, both out there and in here? Here's the first truth. Silence isn't something you find. It's something you create. That doesn't mean you have to go live in a cabin in the woods or delete the internet, although let's be honest, sometimes that sounds tempting. What it means is intentionally carving out little pockets of peace, little moments where you choose what gets to speak into your life and what doesn't. It starts with the external noise. Simple things, like turning off notifications. Creating tech-free zones, even if it's just your bedroom or the first 30 minutes of your morning. Putting your phone on Do Not Disturb during deep work. You'll be amazed how powerful it feels to just not be available for a while. You reclaim a bit of your mind every time you do. But the real battle? That's with the internal noise. The self-criticism, the pressure, the constant looping of shoulds. And you don't fight internal noise by yelling back. You quiet it by getting curious. Instead of shutting it down, try listening with kindness. When your mind says you're not doing enough, ask, where's that coming from? Is it fear? Is it comparison? Is it just an old belief trying to protect you from failing? Once you see the thought clearly, it starts to lose its grip. It's like shining a light on a shadow. It doesn't disappear, but it stops being so scary. Another trick? Move your body. Seriously, go for a walk without your phone. Dance. Breathe deeply. Your thoughts get less tangled when your body is in motion. Noise lives in a stagnant mind. Flow quiets it. And sometimes, the most powerful way to silence the noise is to focus on just one thing, one breath, one sentence, one small next step. When you zoom in that closely, everything else fades. You stop spiraling. You land in the moment. Because when you shut out the noise, even for just a little while, you hear something incredible. Clarity, your real thoughts, your actual voice, the one that knows where you're going. So if you're tired of the noise, give yourself permission to unplug, to pause, to choose your input. Because in a world that's constantly yelling for your attention, stillness is a rebellion. And you deserve that quiet space to think, to dream, and to finally hear what your heart's been trying to say all along. Stick around, because up next, we're diving into deep work in short bursts, how to make it work for you, and how to make sure it shifts in the direction that actually sets you free. Deep work in short bursts, how to make it work for you. Let's be honest, most of us don't have long, uninterrupted hours to sink into deep work like some monk in a mountaintop retreat. Life is busy. Phones buzz, kids need you, messages keep popping up, and before you know it, the day's over, and that one big thing you meant to do, still sitting there, untouched. And that's where this beautiful little concept comes in, deep work in short bursts. Now, you might be thinking, wait, deep work sounds like something that needs hours of silence and perfect conditions. But here's the truth. It's not about the length of time you have. It's about the depth of your focus in the time you've got. Even 10 focused minutes, when done right, can move the needle more than 2 hours of scattered multitasking. Imagine this. You sit down at your desk. You take a deep breath. You decide. For the next 15 minutes, you're going all in. No checking messages, no flipping tabs, just you and the work. And something incredible happens. Your brain sharpens. The distractions fade. You get into a groove. You feel momentum. And most importantly, you finish something. That sense of progress, that's addictive. Because it gives you a win. And once your brain gets a taste of what that kind of clarity feels like, it starts to crave more of it. You see, deep work isn't a personality trait. It's a practice. And doing it in short bursts actually works with your brain, not against it. Most of us only have about 25 to 45 minutes of true focus before our minds start wandering. So instead of waiting for a big chunk of time to magically appear, what if you just used the small ones better? Here's what makes it work: intentionality. You decide what you're going to do before the burst starts. No vague plans like, work on that thing. Be specific. Write the first 300 words. Edit the intro. Outline the next 3 slides. The more clearly defined, the easier it is to lock in. Then set a timer. Seriously, even just 15 minutes. It's like making a promise to your brain. This is all we're doing right now. That boundary creates safety. It tells your mind, you don't need to worry about anything else yet. And in that moment, you get a slice of calm clarity that feels almost sacred. The key here is this: don't wait for perfect conditions. Use what you've got. Kids down for a nap? 15 minutes. Waiting for dinner to finish cooking? 10 minutes. Early morning before the house wakes up? 20. Stack those bursts, and before you know it, you've built something real. And if your brain fights back at first, that's okay. You're rewiring. You're gently reminding yourself that you can focus, that not everything has to be rushed or reactive or chaotic. It's not about hustling harder. It's about working smarter, quieter, deeper, even if only for a little while. Because those little bursts, they add up, they chip away at the resistance. They build trust between you and your goals, and they remind you that your best work doesn't require endless time. It just needs your full attention for a moment. So don't underestimate what you can do in 10 minutes. Don't dismiss that short window of peace as not enough. Show up fully, even if briefly. Watch what happens. And stick around, because next, we're going to unlock how to recover your focus fast when life pulls you off track. It's going to be the reset button you never knew you needed. Creating focus zones in your schedule and space. Let's be real for a second. Our brains aren't built for chaos. They crave rhythm, signals, patterns. But the way most of us live, it's like mental pinball. We're answering emails while half listening to a podcast, scrolling through Instagram, and trying to remember if we actually drank that glass of water or just thought about it. No wonder focus feels like a luxury. But here's the beautiful thing. Focus doesn't have to be forced. It can be invited. You just have to create the right space for it. And that's where the idea of focus zones comes in. Picture this, a specific corner of your day, let's say 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., every weekday. That's your zone, not for meetings, not for errands, just for you and the work that actually moves your dreams forward. Over time, your brain starts to recognize it. It's like a muscle memory of the mind. The clock hits 10, and your thoughts settle, your energy shifts. You enter what I like to call the quiet tunnel. And it's not just about time, it's also about space. Think of your environment like a cue. Just like walking into a gym puts your body on alert to move, stepping into a certain setup can signal your brain, it's time to focus now. Maybe it's your desk, with the lamp turned on and your favorite playlist humming low in the background. Maybe it's a coffee shop you only go to for writing. Or a corner of your home with zero clutter and a candle burning. Something that tells your senses, this is where deep work happens. You don't need a fancy office or perfect silence, you just need consistency. Because when you consistently show up in the same time or space to do focused work, you reduce the friction. You don't have to get in the mood or psych yourself up every time. Your body already knows. Your mind already starts to follow. And yes, life is messy. Some days your schedule explodes. Some days you don't get your perfect zone. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection. It's intentionality. Maybe your 10 a.m. window moves to 2 p.m. that day. Maybe your desk is a bit cluttered, but you light that same candle, and your brain says, "All right, let's go anyway." It's about building cues, not cages. This is how we win in a distracted world, by creating little rituals that bring us back to clarity. Think of them as anchors. Tiny choices that pull you out of the noise and into the now. And once you experience how good it feels to be fully present, even just for a short time, you start craving that state. Focus becomes less of a struggle and more of a sanctuary. So if your days have felt scattered lately, this is your invitation to draw a line in the sand. Choose one time block. Choose one physical zone. Protect it like it matters, because it does. You don't need more time. You need less noise. You need a place, a moment, a routine that says, "This is where I show up for myself." And once you build that, everything else gets easier. Stick with me, because in the next, we're going even deeper. You'll learn how to train your brain to return to focus fast, like snapping back into clarity, even after life yanks you out. You're not going to want to miss it. Chapter 6. Emotional Discipline, the Silent Edge. How to keep going when you don't feel like it. Let's talk about those days when everything feels heavier than usual. The kind where you wake up already exhausted, and the thought of doing even one productive thing feels like climbing a mountain in the rain. We all have them. And no, it's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's being human. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. Success doesn't come from the days you feel fired up and ready to conquer the world. It comes from the days you don't, but you show up anyway. So how do you keep going when you don't feel like it? First, you have to stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is a mood. It's unreliable, inconsistent, and often missing when you need it most. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't wake up motivated to brush. You just do it because it's part of who you are. That's the goal with the things that matter. Build the habit so deep into your identity that it doesn't need to feel good to get done. But sometimes, even the habit isn't enough. You're tired. Your mind is loud. Everything in you wants to just check out. And in those moments, it helps to shrink the task. Seriously. Make it ridiculously small. Don't tell yourself to finish the report. Just open the document. Don't promise to work out for an hour. Just put on your sneakers. It's about momentum, not magnitude. Action creates clarity. Tiny steps start to shift the energy. And here's something personal I've learned. Those off days are often the most important ones to lean in. Just a little. Not because you'll have some massive breakthrough, but because you're proving something powerful to yourself. You're building self-trust. You're saying, even when it's hard, I show up. That matters more than you think. Now, let's talk about emotional friction. A lot of times when we don't feel like it, it's not the task that's the problem. It's the feeling attached to it. Guilt, fear of failing, perfectionism, pressure. And the best way to silence that noise, compassion. Not hustle, not self-criticism, just gentle honesty. Tell yourself, it's okay that today feels hard. I'm allowed to struggle, but I'm still going to do something, even if it's messy, even if it's 10%. You're not trying to win the day. You're trying to not abandon it. And here's a trick I use. Imagine your future self watching you. Not the one from 5 years ahead, the one from tonight, brushing their teeth, looking in the mirror. What would they thank you for? That you gave up and scrolled for hours? Or that you pushed through for just 25 minutes and made a little progress? We always think it has to be all or nothing. But life is actually built in the middle, in the gray, in the days that feel foggy and slow and a little broken. So if today is one of those days, here's your reminder. It doesn't have to be epic. It just has to be done. You don't have to feel like doing it. You just have to feel like you matter enough to try. Because you do. And that one small move you make today, One page, one paragraph, one deep breath isn't just keeping you on track. It's keeping you connected to your purpose, even in the dark. Stay close, because next we'll uncover the secret weapon that high performers use to turn those tough moments into fuel. And trust me, it's something you can start using right away. Dealing with self-doubt, distraction, and emotional clutter. Let's be real. Some of the hardest battles we fight don't happen on the outside. They happen quietly in our own minds. You sit down to work, to create, to finally do that thing you've been putting off, and then out of nowhere, it hits. That little voice. Are you sure you're good enough for this? Or maybe it's sneakier. Why even bother? It probably won't work anyway. That's self-doubt, and it doesn't shout. It whispers, just loud enough to slow you down, to make you question, to pull you off track. But you're not alone. Everyone, yes, even the most successful people you admire, wrestle with it. The difference? They've learned not to let it steer the wheel. And then there's distraction, not just the obvious kind. Your phone lighting up or notifications pinging every few minutes. I'm talking about the emotional distractions. That argument you had 2 days ago. The fear of disappointing someone. The feeling that you're behind in life and should have had it all figured out by now. These thoughts don't just sit in the background. They take up mental real estate, like having 10 browser tabs open in your brain, each one draining energy and clarity. And emotional clutter? That's the sneakiest of all. It's the unresolved stuff. Guilt, shame, comparison, regret. We carry it like invisible luggage. Some of it isn't even ours. We've picked it up from other people's expectations, or the world telling us what success should look like. But the weight is real. It fogs up your focus. It makes everything feel twice as hard, even when you're doing something you love. So what do we do with all of it? We don't try to silence it completely. That's not realistic. What we do is acknowledge it. We call it out by name. Because once you name something, you strip it of some of its power. You move from being consumed by it to being conscious of it. When that self-doubt creeps in, ask it questions. Is this thought helping me move forward or keeping me stuck? Is it true or just familiar? Treat your mind like a friend who's scared, not a monster to be defeated. Talk to it with kindness but firmness. As for distraction, start with space. Not just physical space, but mental. Give yourself pockets of stillness, even 5 minutes. Breathe. Write down the junk thoughts if you need to. Clear the clutter. Think of your focus like a whiteboard. Wipe it clean, so only what matters now stays in front of you. Here's something you might not hear often. You don't have to be 100% clear, confident, or ready to take action. You just need to care enough to keep going anyway, even with the noise, even with the doubts, even with the mess. You're not broken for feeling scattered or unsure. You're alive, you're growing, you're learning how to focus through the fog, not wait for it to clear. And that's a superpower. Now stay with me, because what we're diving into next might just change the way you approach your entire day. It's not about working harder. It's about working smarter in the moments that matter most. Let's go there together. The secret to showing up every day, especially on bad ones. Let's be honest. Showing up every day sounds noble. It sounds like something we all want to do. But what about the days you wake up and everything feels heavy? The days when your motivation is buried under self-doubt, anxiety, or plain exhaustion. You know the ones. When even brushing your teeth feels like a win. How do you show up then? Here's the truth most people don't say out loud. The secret to showing up every day isn't about being strong or disciplined all the time. It's about making showing up so small, so doable, that even on your worst days, you can still take a step. Think about it. On good days, showing up might mean ticking off your entire to-do list, crushing goals, feeling inspired, energized, productive. Great. But on bad days, it might mean simply opening your laptop, writing one messy sentence, taking a 10-minute walk, instead of skipping movement altogether, whispering to yourself, "Just for today, I'll try." That shift, removing the pressure to be perfect, is the real secret. We often treat consistency like an all-or-nothing thing. But it's not. It's everything in between. It's messy, incomplete, imperfect, tired, gritty. But it's real. And real progress is made in those tiny, quiet acts of courage when no one's watching. You don't need to be at 100% to show up. You just need to stop waiting to feel ready. Because, let's face it, if we only acted when we felt motivated, we'd barely do anything. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the weather. But your commitment? That's the anchor. That's what holds you steady, even when the winds of life feel like they're trying to knock you down. And here's the beautiful part. When you show up on the hard days, it counts double. Why? Because you're proving to yourself that you're not just in this for the highs, you're in it because it matters. Because the dream, the goal, the version of you you're becoming, it's worth pushing through the fog for. One day, you'll look back at the days you almost didn't show up and realize those were the days that built your resilience, not the easy ones. The tough, ugly, quiet ones. The days you wanted to quit but didn't. That's where your strength is forged. So the next time you feel like skipping, like saying not today, maybe tomorrow, I want you to ask yourself this: what's the smallest possible way I can still show up today? One word, one task, one moment of stillness. That's all it takes to keep the flame alive. You don't have to sprint. You don't even have to walk fast. You just have to keep moving forward, even if it's a shuffle, especially on the days it's hard, because that's how you become unstoppable, one imperfect day at a time. And if you're wondering what happens when you keep showing up like that even when it's hard, well, that's what we're going to explore next. Because it doesn't just build discipline, it builds identity. Stay with me. Chapter 7. The Productivity Compass. Your Daily Reset. Reflective Rituals to Reset and Recenter. There's something sacred about pausing. Not stopping forever. Just pausing. Just long enough to catch your breath, gather your thoughts, and remember who you are again. Life moves fast, faster than we sometimes realize, and without meaning to, we start moving on autopilot. We get swept up in the to-do lists, the expectations, the constant noise. Days blur together, weeks pass, and somewhere in the middle of all that motion, we forget to ask ourselves one very simple question: how am I really? That's where reflective rituals come in. These aren't big dramatic things. They're quiet, personal, and intentional. Little moments that help you reset and recenter, especially when your mind feels scattered or your heart feels heavy. Think of them as mental pit stops, not just for rest, but for realignment. Maybe for you, it's journaling by candlelight when the world is finally quiet. Not writing a novel, just a few honest lines. What you're feeling, what's been bothering you, what you're proud of, even if it's small. Maybe it's a walk at sunset without your phone, just listening to your own thoughts for a change, or sipping tea in silence while staring out the window. Not rushing, just being. These tiny rituals, when done regularly, start to whisper truths back to you that you didn't realize you'd been ignoring. Here's the thing. When we don't pause to reflect, we start carrying emotional clutter, regrets we haven't acknowledged, disappointments we've buried, wins we didn't even celebrate because we were too busy jumping to the next thing. All of that starts to weigh on us in ways we don't even see until we're burnt out, snappy, or just plain numb. But when we create a space, a ritual, to sit with ourselves, everything begins to feel clearer. Not perfect, but clearer. We start to notice what matters. We reconnect with our why. And when that happens, it becomes so much easier to move forward with intention, instead of just reacting to whatever life throws at us. You don't need an hour. You don't need fancy tools. You just need to make the time feel sacred. Light a candle. Play soft music. Sit on the floor. Ask yourself honest questions like, What am I avoiding? Or what do I need more of in my life? Let the answers come without judgment. That's how healing starts, in the quiet, not the noise. These rituals are your way back to center. They're your reset button. And here's the beautiful part. The more you practice them, the less often you'll find yourself spiraling or stuck, because you'll know how to return home to yourself, even when life gets messy. So if you've been feeling off, scattered, or like you've been running on fumes lately, maybe what you need isn't more hustle. Maybe you just need a moment, a ritual, a pause. Because that's where clarity lives, that's where your strength recharges, and that's where the next chapter quietly waits for you to begin it. Stay with me, because the next part is about how to turn these small resets into the foundation of a more intentional, powerful life. You're closer than you think. How to adjust quickly when your day falls apart. You know those days that just crumble? The alarm didn't go off. Your phone is blowing up with unexpected problems. Someone says something that throws you emotionally off balance. And suddenly, the version of the day you thought you were going to have? Gone. Just like that. It happens. To all of us. No matter how much we plan, how many to-do lists we create, or how strong our morning routine is, life has a way of reminding us that control is sometimes an illusion. And in that moment, when the day starts slipping through your fingers like sand, it's tempting to just give up on it entirely. Ugh, today's ruined. But here's the secret most productive and resilient people know. Just because your day starts messy doesn't mean it has to end that way. The key isn't in preventing chaos, it's in how quickly you pivot when it hits. And it starts with a simple, almost rebellious act, pausing instead of spiraling. When things feel like they're falling apart, most people push harder or freak out. But what if, instead, you closed your eyes, took one deep breath, and asked yourself, okay, what can I still do with this day? Maybe you didn't get to start on your big project, but could you knock out 2 small tasks that give you a sense of momentum again? Maybe your emotions are fried from something unexpected, so instead of pretending everything's fine, you allow yourself 10 minutes to process, cry, scream into a pillow, journal, or just sit with your feelings. And then, gently step back into motion. See, flexibility isn't weakness, it's power, it's resilience. It's understanding that plans are helpful, but your ability to adapt is what truly carries you through. The faster you can stop resisting the reality of what went wrong and start responding with intention, the faster your day starts feeling like yours again. Sometimes it helps to reset your environment, change your scenery, play music that shifts your mood, splash water on your face, or even take a walk. Other times, it's about resetting your expectations. You may not be able to salvage the whole day, but could you protect the next hour? Could you make one small choice that turns the tide, even just a little? Those micro-wins, like showing up anyway, choosing calm over chaos, or making one thing count, they're not small, they're massive. They teach your brain, I don't quit when things fall apart, I adjust. That identity shift is everything. So next time your day starts to crash, remember this: you don't have to fix everything. You just have to re-anchor, re-decide. Ask yourself what matters now, not what was supposed to happen before everything went sideways. Because sometimes the most powerful days are the ones that didn't go according to plan, but you showed up for them anyway, imperfect, scrambled, but still standing. That's the kind of resilience that builds an unshakable life. Stick with me, because next, we'll explore how to turn breakdowns into breakthroughs, and why your worst days might actually hold the blueprint for your best growth. Ending each day with closure and clarity. There's something almost sacred about the way a day ends, when the world quiets down, when your phone finally stops buzzing, and the chaos fades into the background. What's left is you. Just you and whatever you're carrying. And here's the truth. Most people carry their unfinished days into their nights like emotional luggage. Loose ends, regrets, mental to-do lists, conversations they replay over and over. They close their eyes, but they don't really rest, because their mind is still living in the day that just passed. But what if your day didn't have to end that way? What if you could actually close the chapter, no matter how messy, beautiful, or ordinary it was, and give yourself the gift of mental peace before the next one begins? That's what ending the day with closure and clarity is all about. It's not about being perfect or checking off every task. It's about honoring the fact that you lived another day. You showed up, you tried, you endured, you did something, and that deserves a moment of reflection. Imagine if, instead of collapsing into bed with exhaustion and anxiety, you took 5 minutes to reset. Not in some complicated ritualistic way, but just with honesty. Ask yourself, what went well today? What felt hard? What do I want to let go of? What do I want to carry forward? Some nights, your wins will be loud. Maybe you finished something big, had an important breakthrough, or finally stood up for yourself. Other nights, your win might just be getting through the day, and that counts too, more than you realize. And if something went wrong? If you snapped at someone, missed a deadline, scrolled too long, procrastinated, or fell short of what you expected from yourself, you don't need to bury it or beat yourself up. You need to meet it, look at it, say, okay, that happened. Why? What can I learn from it? And then let it go. Don't let today's mistakes become tomorrow's weight. This small moment of evening reflection gives your brain closure, it lets your heart breathe, and most importantly, it sends you to bed empty, not emotionally cluttered. Because clarity doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from facing everything, gently, without judgment. Some people like to write it down, a few journal lines, a quick list. Others just sit in silence and mentally replay their day like a movie, pausing at key scenes. There's no wrong way to do it. The only mistake is skipping it completely. Ending your day with clarity is like putting a period at the end of a sentence. It signals, this day is complete, and no matter what happened, I get to begin again tomorrow, with awareness, with intention, and with self-respect. So tonight, before you rush into sleep, give yourself that gift. Close the loop. Say thank you to the parts of you that showed up, even if they struggled. And whisper to yourself, I'm proud of you for making it through. If this hit home for you, don't just let it fade. Act on it. Hit that like button if you're ready to take control of your day. Subscribe for more mind-shifting audiobooks that fuel your growth. And drop a comment below. What's the one thing that usually throws off your day? Let's build a community where productivity feels less overwhelming and more possible. Your best days are ahead, but only if you take the first step. See you in the next one. 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 See you in the